Hello, everyone. Welcome to Soulprism podcast, where we share bite-sized nuggets of wisdom for your body, mind, and soul to serve you, the emerging soulpreneur. My name is Tammy Mack, and I am so excited today. Adrienne Rivera is the founder of Breath of Gold. She is a world-renowned breathwork facilitator, trainer, and spiritual business coach. She has curated one of the top trauma-informed breathwork certification training programs in the world that features guest lectures from doctors, neuroscience experts, lawyers, therapists, paramedics, and more. Adrienne specializes in supporting entrepreneurs, CEOs, and business owners to reach new levels of success through the practice of breathwork. She is also a sought-after speaker, best-selling author, creator of the Breath of Gold Journal, and creator of the Breath of Gold Oracle deck. Her clients have said things like, "That felt like 9 years of therapy in one session." Adrienne's upbeat energy, passion for breathwork, and the ability to intuitively guide breathwork experiences elevate her classes to a truly exceptional level. She believes that all the answers that we're looking for can be found within the breath. Welcome, Adrienne.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Tammy. Excited to be here.
It is my pleasure. Now, I got to tell you, Adrienne is the very first business coach that I ever hired back in like 2019, 2020. She was the very first coach who held me through my first collaborative experience with embodiment to purpose. I remember her literally being on the phone when I was putting the numbers in because I never experienced, business coaching on that level before, and having somebody to support me, to walk me through the process of building a business, supporting me through breath work. She even was drumming over me over the phone sometimes when I was like freaking out. It was an absolutely amazing experience, Adrienne, I have to see, to be held and supported by you back in 2019. So I want to thank you so very much, first of all, because we've never discussed this. So I've never talked about how much that meant to me, because I've never experienced anything like that before.
Wow, thank you so much. That makes my day to hear. And yes, I love that. I'm deeply honored that I was your first business coach. And it has been an equal honor to see you grow and stay with it. Sometimes people hire their first business coach and they think, okay, I'm going to do all the things, and they may not be able to really sustain it. And for you, you've just kept going, kept building and growing. And I'm so honored to see what you've created for yourself as well.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. It's funny now she does breathwork sessions and she'll like put something on her email and I'll share it to my list. And all of a sudden she's got like 20 new heads in her breathwork session. She's like, where do these people come from? Like my crew, my
Yes,
peeps.
thank you so much for bringing your people. I love that. That's so generous. And I don't think a lot of people do that of, celebrating their coaches, celebrating the people that they love, and giving other people's resources to their community. So I love that you have that generous approach.
I truly believe that the future of business is less of competition and more of collaboration and really working together. And this truly what is Soul Prism Collective is all about. It is based on the foundation of collaboration, affiliation, and automation. And so absolutely, if there is somebody that I love working with, I am going to keep them in my back pocket. I'm going to send people to them all the time. And I know that it always comes back, right? Like you are here today on my podcast. You are one of the speakers that is going to be speaking and presenting at the Take Up Space Summit. I'm so excited about this. Can you tell me, what does Take Up Space mean to you?
Yes, I love this question a lot. And I think that a lot of people think it means, speak your truth, shout it out loud, be loud. But for me, it's not necessarily about being loud. Like taking up space to me is actually putting on blinders to the comparison that we often fall into. I know for myself, that was a period of time in my entrepreneurial journey where there was just so much comparison, putting my own coaches and other coaches that I looked up to on pedestals and feeling like I was shrinking because of the mental game. And so in order to really take up space, I think it's a lot about putting on blinders, not needing to do what most business coaches say, which is study your competition, notice what they're doing, recreate their offers, like not that, but instead going within, instead using breathwork as our number one business tool to connect to our souls, to see what intuitive wisdom wants to come through. And then we take up space by just being ourselves, by going forward with laser-like focus and taking action. And it's saying no to the shiny objects and saying yes to what we're doing. And I've been doing a lot more of that, just listening to what do I feel excited about creating? What do I feel called to create? And I already know my plan. So I get to take up space by executing that plan. And so a lot of it is just doing what you do, not being distracted, not comparing yourself, and yeah, being as authentic as possible.
I love that so much. Two things popped out for me. First of all, I love that you say taking up space is staying in your own lane. Like that is so brilliant. In human design, the sun is in gate 62 right now, which is all about preparation and details. And sometimes we can get stuck in the details in comparison instead of coming back to our own genius and our own magic. And breath work is an amazing somatic tool that can get you back into your vibration. I would love to hear how it is that you use breath work to come back to your own vibration, to come back to your own truth and alignment.
Yes. Well, I think it's definitely so needed for entrepreneurs, especially coaches, other healers, because we are giving so much. We are doing so much. So it's very important that we have time and space for ourselves to refill our cup. I have someone who is my breathwork bestie, and she leads me in breathwork every week. I lead her in breathwork every week. It's been 4 years. She was a bridesmaid in my wedding, and that practice of just having that space held for me is totally key. So my main breathwork practice is once a week, a deeper dive session. Sometimes people will say, well, don't you do a daily breathwork practice? Isn't that what we all need? And I don't really feel that we need a personal daily breathwork practice. I think a lot of people can benefit from it if that's what they want. But if you have other things that you would prefer for a morning routine, like for me, my thing is running. I want to get my energy up and I want to take care of my body. And if I do breathwork once a week for 90-minute call, like I feel pretty set for the week, and then it's all about taking action. So the way that I use breath work is differently than some. I call it the breathwork triangle. There's 3 elements to breath that we get to focus on. And this is actually behind the transformational gold butterfly in our logo. We have the triangle. So triangles at the top. That corner symbolizes our active or our natural breath. This is how we breathe naturally every single moment of the day, which is best done diaphragmatically, deep down into the belly, slow, deep breaths that are in and out through the nose. And so proper breathing is not frantic, it's not too shallow, it's not sporadic, it's a healthy breath. And so we got to master that. Then we've got these shorter breathwork techniques that may be inspired from pranayama techniques that have been around for over 8,000 years. And those things are more commonly practiced by people that are wanting a shift quickly throughout the day. So if you're wanting to sleep better, 4-8 breathing is great. Inhale 4 through the nose, exhale 8 through the mouth. Do that for a few minutes before you sleep. You'll wake up the next day recharged. That's always a great one. Box breath is great before speaking, calming your nerves, anxiety. But then there's this transformational breath work, which is kind of its own thing. And usually when people say breath work, they're talking about more of this modern day breath work rather than these smaller breathing techniques. And sometimes we have to go to the moon to appreciate the stars. That's how it was for me. Like I needed to know that, wow, having a full hour-long journey can make me cry. It can make me have realizations and connections to my soul's purpose that I've never found before, to then realize, okay, if that can be so powerful with my breath, then of course box breathing can be powerful. I need to, appreciate these smaller practices as well and know that they have a time and place. So I think it depends for certain people, what are you looking for? Are you looking to sleep better? Are you looking to deepen your spiritual connection and use breath work as a tool in your business? If so, circular connected breath is my favorite for that. And you only need that once a week, or even once a month can be really powerful. It's one of those things where less is more. You get the information, lots of integration, and lots of taking inspired action, rather than thinking that the more you do it, the better.
I love that so much. And I love the evolution of breath work, right? Like, I love that there's so many different ways that we can use breath in our lives. Like, for instance, I use Qigong. And so this is very slow, deep breath. But then we also use breath of fire, and we use other breaths to clear the meridian lines. Then there's also like holotropic breath work, which is what you were talking about, right? That circular breath work that really gets you into your chest and really gets you into that sympathetic system, right? And that is so transformational. This is how I was introduced to breath work with you, Adrienne, was through that style, and it like rocked my world. I remember having to be in almost like a fetal position when I was breathing, because I was like having like gnarly low back pain through it. And it was really releasing a lot of trauma and a lot of stuff in my back. And I was doing child pose, during breath work with you, because I was just like, I don't know what's going on with my body, but I'm feeling it in the back. And you're like, just move however you need to move. And I was like, I felt like I was in Lamaze class.
I
But
love
it
it.
was so transformational, right? And I do agree, it's not something that you need to do every single day. There's so many other modalities. And I love that you brought in running, because running is its own source of breath work. And I'm curious, when you run, because I know when I run, I actually focus on my breath a lot. And I actually do that circular breath in my running, because I really need to make sure that I'm taking that full deep breath. But I know that you're a runner, and I know that your husband is a very experienced runner as well. So I would love if you would talk to me a little bit about running and breath work.
Yeah, this is really great. And a lot of people wonder about this. And before I was a runner, I was a swimmer. I used to swim like at 4 a.m. before high school for 2 hours. And that was my thing. And that is like the original Adrienne breathwork thing. Because yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. I was swimming, I was in the pool, and I was like, wow, I am naturally taking a breath hold. And then right before I turn my head to the side to breathe, there's this exhale. And I'm sure I learned that back in the day when I learned swimming from my coaches when I was 5 years old, but I didn't remember that. It just became an automatic practice. So with running, it's an interesting thing. There are some really interesting books out there. One of them is The Oxygen Advantage, and it talks a lot about breathing light to breathe right. And so it talks a lot about athletic performance, improving our health, and the less we breathe, the better it can be for us, because we increase our carbon dioxide tolerance, and essentially we're able to do more without feeling out of breath. So that's why, if a lot of people are feeling like, I work out all the time, but why am I still out of breath at the top of the stairs when I walk up the stairs to go home? That's because your carbon dioxide tolerance is low. So when we run, there's a lot of books out there, such as this book and other books that say, breathe through your nose when you run, like only nose breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. And I had a discussion with my husband about this, because he is a professional runner. I'm like, what do you think about this, Darren? Like, are we really only supposed to breathe through our nose? And what I can say is that these people that wrote the books, they know more about science than maybe Darren, but Darren, my husband, I'm sure is faster than these people who wrote the books. So his perspective, I think, is really interesting, where he said, if you can warm up and do your easy runs with nose breathing, that's going to keep your body in a more relaxed state, and it's going to be easier for your body to recover. But when it comes to racing, like there's just no way that you're going to be able to get in the gas exchange fast enough. So you're going to need to breathe through a bigger orifice, which is your face and your mouth. And so, yes, I definitely breathe through my mouth when I run. There are a lot of benefits to breathing through the nose, such as it filters the air, it warms the air, it humidifies the air. You get the nitric oxide. So lots of benefits. However, are you running for breath, or are you running to challenge your body and work your heart muscle and pump it a little harder so that you're really getting the cardio benefits? Which benefit do you care about more? So yeah, there's a whole trend out there where you mouth tape and then you work out and then you run. And personally, I'm not into that, but some people are. For me, the main reason why I love breath work is for the clarity that comes through, the transformational release. And when I first found breath work, the first 10 sessions were wildly transformational. I released a lot of trauma. And from that experience with breath work and it being more of a spiritual modality rather than a sports performance modality, I haven't really gone into it for myself in that area yet. Maybe that's something I'll do in the future. But for me, it's been life-changing because my past keeps getting better. And someone asked me the other day, Adrienne, you're such a happy person. How was your childhood? I said, it was great. And then I was like, wait a second. I remember 4 or 5, maybe actually 6 years ago, being in a live coaching retreat and crying, releasing childhood trauma because of how my sister treated me growing up and the disconnect that we had and the abuse that I had felt physically and emotionally. And now we've really grown a lot. Breathwork has given me intuitive action steps to face those sister wounds and to go on trips with her and to make the effort to connect with her. And, she's totally apologized and I've seen how she's grown. And one of the lessons that leading breath work has taught me is that everyone in a way deserves a second chance. You can change so much that why should we carry the past when we can just let it go? Yes, my sister maybe wasn't the best, but I think a lot of siblings are like that and it's okay. And she's a different person now and I can let that go. I've led so many people one-on-one where they have so much stuff that comes to the surface about their past around shame. They're carrying so much shame that if they just let that go, and that's part of why one-on-one breathwork is so powerful, because when a facilitator who's done the work, who is trauma-informed, can hold that safe space and be like, it's okay. You can free yourself now. You no longer have to hold on to this shame for the thing that you did in the past. You can let it go. To be accepted in that space is such a gift for people.
Yeah, that is so true. Now I'm a Jeff Galloway girl, so I was training for long distance running, and so it's slow and steady, right? And that's probably why I focus so much on diaphragmic. But then when I was running Spartans, you better believe I was panting like a dog. When I'm running up a mountain, I'm pouting like a dog. There's no slow breath in there whatsoever. I love that you brought up trauma informed. As you may not know, I work in mental health and addictions at the hospital. And I work on the floor with them quite a bit. And in the mornings, we do stretching. And I do a lot of stretching, chair stretches with them. And sometimes when the boss isn't looking, I'll bring in some breath work and some Qigong and whatnot. And the one thing that I find so much with people that are in crisis is that they cannot breathe. First of all, they have no idea what breathing through your stomach is like. They cannot take, say, a 4-second breath or anything like that. And I would love to hear your experience of breath work and bringing people out of crisis, or bringing people into better relationship with their body through breath.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love this. And I love that you're doing that work. I didn't know that you were doing that work. That's amazing. Yeah. So I think it really comes down to the foundation of teaching a healthy and natural breath. That is really where we need to go with people. And there's certain mechanical things that we can do that I also teach my certification facilitator students. If someone is really struggling to breathe into the belly, we always start lying on the back. It's actually easiest to belly breathe when you're lying down, and that's where we start. So we start with that area. For many people, it doesn't actually feel safe to breathe deeply. And what I've seen is that a lot of people who breathe really shallow, even in the circular connected breath, often they've had some sort of trauma around breath that is quite challenging for them and is very much affecting their breath throughout the day and the level of stress and anxiety and, like you said, crisis that they're under. And so many times if I'm leading a client and they're not breathing that deep, I might ask them, hey, do you feel like you're really breathing deeply right now? I say, yes, I'm breathing so deeply. I'll say, curious, have you ever had any trauma around breath? And many times those that breathe really shallow, they will say yes. I had a woman who at first she said no. It was a one-on-one session. She was breathing, breathing, breathing. Then all of a sudden she has this memory come back of a pretty painful moment where her ex-husband had held her up against a wall with his hand on her neck. And her last thought before she had passed out, obviously she ended up okay and out of that marriage, thank goodness. But she was like, oh my goodness, I hope my kids aren't here seeing this. Like, oh no, right? And so that was really painful for her. But as soon as she remembered that moment, she was able to take a deep breath. It was like, it was like this big gasp where she's like, oh my goodness, I hadn't allowed myself to breathe. And our bodies are very good at creating adaptations. If something traumatic happens, it'll either suppress it, delete it, distort it. Suppressed memories are a real thing. I studied psychology from Virginia Tech. That was my degree. And I remember learning about suppressed memories and actually having one come back to life. And I'm like, whoa, this is real. This is crazy. And so, yeah, everyone's different. I would say for anyone who's in crisis and you're curious about breath work, I would make sure to start with a one-on-one breath worker first, just to have that extra space held for you and to really let them know your entire extensive background, because group sessions are great and they have even more benefits of, just the group energy. It's a lot of fun. However, letting someone who is trauma informed know about your history, what you've gone through, what your normal triggers are, any health concerns that you have, and what you're noticing with your natural breath, that's going to give them a lot more background. And a good breathwork facilitator will meet you where you're at with first teaching you proper breathing, especially if they're hearing you say that you don't know how to breathe properly. Start there before even going into some of those deeper styles of breath work like circular connected breath. And yeah, really going at the client's pace rather than forcing them into a practice because that's what we're trained in. Instead, looking at the client, noticing the symptoms, noticing their health history, and supporting them as best as we can.
That is so beautiful. My question to you is this: where do you see the future of breath work, as it's transforming, as it's moving more into mainstream? Where would you like to see breath work? And do you have any future ideas of what you'd like to see breath work move into?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first thing that pops into my head is a company who I think is doing great things. Their name is Moonbird, and they have this small little breathing device where you can just hold it in your hand. You can program it for stress release, sleep support, whatever you need. And it's just simple breath work. So it's not the full-on transformational journey led by a facilitator, but it's using the practices of, lengthening your exhales to relax, basically. And it kind of feels like a bird breathing in your hand. The wings kind of flap out as you inhale and you breathe with it, and then you exhale and you feel it kind of deflate in your hands. And so I am an affiliate for them and recently started using it. And that's like a really cool thing that I think is really practical for people that are struggling with anxiety. And so there might be more devices that come out or things like that. For me personally, I haven't shared this anywhere else. You guys are getting this behind the scenes first known is that we will be launching and creating a breathwork certification specifically for kids next year. And so how I see myself and Breath of Gold really transforming the future will be by targeting mothers that, have kids of the next generation and giving them the tools that they need to wake up. And I was actually talking to one of my business besties about this. And she's like, well, Adrienne, if you're giving these kids all these tools and they're emotionally regulated and they don't have all this trauma, like, does that mean they won't have inner child work to do like we have to do as adults? And that was just such a funny question. I'm like, their relationship with their childhood will be a lot less because it won't be a lot of this suppressed energy from energy that they never felt safe enough in releasing. So for that program, we're going to be bringing in a variety of experts, children's therapists, and people that specialize in the development of children, and we're going to have different brackets, like the teenager breath work is probably going to be more fun and cool and like rapping breath work. And then the younger breath work will be like bunny breath and roller coaster breath. And, just really meeting people where they're at and giving them emotional regulation tools so that they can process. And I think that's really going to be a game changer.
That is amazing. I don't know if you're familiar with the 2027 evolution that human design is all about, but we talk about like, okay, so this is new to you.
Yeah.
We talk about this, the evolution of the human, and the first raves, as we call them, are going to be born in February 2027. We see a
Ooh.
lot of autism and spectrum kids. My son is one, I am one as well. And we're seeing the evolution in slow time of where these new children are going to be so emotionally different. I mean, they already are, right? Like they don't speak, they have different development systems, the way that they communicate with others is very, very different. And so when you're talking about breathwork and children, it'll be really, really interesting to see how breathwork supports them through the way that these children are may feel, or they're probably really going to feel different from everyone else, and how it is that they can use breath work. Because like when we talk about the children of the future, and are they going to have the inner childhood work that we're really doing right now, like we're here to clear up the inner child work, so our children don't are like the future children aren't born with that, but they're creating their own karma. Like that's the evolution of the world, right? Like there's always going to be something new, and so they're going to be creating their own karma. But how interesting it'll be when you can move through that a lot faster, instead of repressing it, instead of creating all this ancestral wounding, when these children are born and are carrying more light and able to transmute trauma and all this stuff so much faster. How the evolution of the next 400 years is going to be fueled by breath and supporting our children.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was getting chills as you were talking about this new wave of children in 2027. And I know one day I will be more than just a dog mom. And yeah, maybe 2027 will be my year. We will see. I'm excited.
That's amazing. And I'm excited for you. I can't wait to see you as a mama.
Aw.
I'll be on your team there. I'll be cheering you on when you and your husband move into motherhood and parenthood, and you're going to make an amazing mother. I want to
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for being on the Soulprism podcast today, and also being a speaker in the Take Up Space Summit that is happening July 24th to the 26th this year. We are celebrating Soulprism Collective's third birthday, so it's a baby of its own. And I want to thank you so much for being a part of my journey, to introducing me to breath work, and really being a forefront of supporting spiritual soulpreneurs.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
And I'm going to leave a free link down below so you can check out one of her classes. They're Sunday evenings. You may see me there because I absolutely love them. So thank you so much, Adrienne.
Thank you. Yes, hope to see you at Sunday Breathwork.